The records are all real. The body cam is real. The court audio is real. The tapes from church are real. It's just that the characters in this story are antisocial types. So I'm gonna take the one quality image I have of a Schrabel. I'm gonna make it 16 by 9, and we're gonna have him smiling for his close-up. Welcome. I'm Syran. Should I look at you? Okay, I'm Syran, and I'm an investigative journalist, and this story is called You're All I Think About. And what it's about, this is about the relationship between this destructive cult that I've been studying forever and law enforcement in Okanogan County, Washington, cops that did the cult favors. And I'll say, this is not speculation. This is in the record. At this point, I've read thousands of pages of court documents, and I have access to stuff like internal emails. I've got body cam. I mean, when it comes to public records, I do not fuck around at all. And they're gonna tell you that I'm not a journalist. They're gonna tell you that the cult is not really a cult at all. It's more like a Bible study for families. And they will look you in the eye and say this report here from Alaska was written by a police officer who just had the wrong idea. He bought into the myth of the body, but that I know that everything in that report is true. It checks out with the evidence.
No, Daddy. Not Jesus, Daddy told me. He said, "You've done all I required of you, and I will require no more. I require no more. There's nothing more. I fulfilled all of the law and the prophets, all of it. I established it. It's the end of all earthly covenants for me. There is no more contract."
Hurry up, they're barricading you. You came to my house, you kicked down my door, you stole my property, my daughters. There's a lot of people that have conspired against me and testified wrongly. Okay.
If we look at the results of brainwashing, this isn't a theoretical thing. This is a real life thing. The results of brainwashing, that people get made to do awful things.
It's such a disgrace. Ba da 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 ba da 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 la da 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 di la da da da.
It says your search did not match any record.
Well, I mean, the report is just like it's sort of like a buffet of here are all the things all the documents. I mean, the first thing that sticks out to me is that this report is 22 pages, and it's one officer.
Yes.
That's unusual.
22 pages is very extreme. This was meant to influence the case. It's such a disgrace. Ba da 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 la da 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 da
What would happen if they came down here?
They'd shoot me.
They'd recognize you on sight?
They would recognize me on sight for sure, just like I would recognize him on sight. 5 seconds, buddy. Vote.
Say go when you're ready.
Go, go, go.
"10 years ago, there was an investigation into a preacher in Nikiski, Alaska. They found out pretty quickly this guy was trying to build Zion in the woods. And that was strange. But having a compound and throwing some teepees on top of it is not illegal. What was at issue was a strange, quasi-religious practice known as washing, which the church tried to say was just like a baptism. But then tapes came out of the preacher talking about one of these washings at church. And whatever was going on in the yurt did not sound like a traditional baptism.
She did it! She did! Gary put his nuts in his hand and said, "Look at that!"
Look at that! What the fuck is that guy talking about? What kind of Bible study are these conversations occurring in? It's not a Bible study. It's a destructive cult. The investigators were investigating a sex cult.
I knew it. They were doing orgies. Every man screwed my wife. Yeah, we sure did, man. We horned down like dogs. Had enough now, though. You can have her back. In her white dress.
Mark Bissett reads a lot of fantasy novels. And when former members began offering their testimony about washing, the fidelity to the popular imagination's idea of what a sex cult might be like was so on point, it almost seemed to borrow from this kind of fiction.
I walk into the yurt, and two ladies, Leanne and another lady named Stephanie, all dressed in white, very loose, lacy. They are dancing around in a trance-like state, speaking in tongues. These guys were in a state of ecstasy. Very, very different than normal. It very much reminded me of a satanic ritual, if you were to imagine one. We had never done anything like what they were doing in there.
When all this started coming out in court, it became known that Mark's right-hand man, Gary Parker, played a pivotal role in the washings. And Gary became unavailable for comment.
What do you know about the washings that have occurred in the group?
Gary escorted me, put me in a specific place just a few feet in front of the door, and he began to disrobe me.
I can't remember what was said, but Gary started taking my clothes off.
And then Mark took his bare hands and washed my whole body. He fondled me for a bit. He felt every part of my body and washed me.
Mark Bissett then scrambled to get rid of records, got rid of pictures, got rid of video, deleted Facebooks, deleted all kinds of accounts. And he behaved erratically when questioned by the cops. In 2015, when Mark finally had to answer questions about the tapes and washing in court, his response was that the people who supplied the tapes had manufactured his voice, and that everything we heard was fake.
You know what I'd have done to that kid? And I'd have repented later. He has no idea how close he came. Get busted up.
This manufacturing of Mark's voice would have been impossible a decade ago. But since Mark was so insistent that the material was staged, it seems appropriate to use one of the remaining images of him to recreate his testimony, in which there is no available footage.
Well, number one, you can take fragments of 12 years of recordings and make anything you want out of them. Number two, it was fabricated.
Oh, so you think that, well, there's been an allegation in this case that they've been fabricated.
recordings played for the court? I'm sure there's been many. Really? You think that somebody has employed an audio technician to fabricate recordings of the body? Yes, it's gotta be.
Mark had insisted on being recorded during church meetings because he was working on literature in the yurt. He wanted everything he said to be remembered. And when the heat was turning up, he actually decided that he'd had enough of Alaska, and he moved on.
They basically ended up trying to hash out in front of the judge what was abuse and what wasn't abuse, and if anybody had ever done any of these washings to any of the kids that were in the church. It's really, really bonkers stuff.
It didn't really matter what Mark was doing, so long as he stopped doing it in Alaska. In the end, he got off with a warning, and it was like nothing fucking happened. So find yourself somewhere no one is looking. Make new connections. Repeat.
Are you aware of the allegation that Mr. Gary Parker was naked while Mr. Bissett was laying on the ground, and that Mr. Gary Parker placed Mr. Bissett's hands on his genitals?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have never heard of such a thing. It's gross and perverted. You probably heard it from my husband, who has a gross and perverted mind. I have no idea what you're speaking of.
There's a ritual called washing, and it's reoccurring. It happens when there's something inside of you that needs to be cleansed, according to leadership. When Chris was arrested, his daughter was taken in for a forensic interview, and she talked about bad things that happened in the shower. There was also physical evidence. It's just like what happened in the affidavits.
You've made a number of statements that people that have left the body have had demons, right?
I don't recall that either.
Where does the washing occur? It happens mostly at the compound, and the research suggests that when you hear a word like compound and it's like a religious thing, you're talking about a cult. What you're talking about is a cult. It's not a Bible study. The body is also described as a cult in affidavits. This is a courthouse, and these documents are unambiguous. Carrie swore she'd been manipulated by a cult called the Body. We've established that. She said the group was dangerous, and she identified signals representing her greatest fears. Carrie was worried about her ex-husband Chris harming children. A record like this is commonly known as a DVPO, and as I understand it, these are generally the worst calls to respond to because there's often an aggressive male at the scene who isn't expecting the cops. The first thing in the protection order is a warning about what would happen if Chris found out about it ahead of schedule. So the cops show up with orders to remove children and weapons. This order is signed by a judge. And Chris was so prepared for these guys, he had a written statement in a cabinet by the front door. Chris's papers weren't at all legally binding because, as an attorney later had to indicate, Chris is not a judge. Somehow, the deputies were confused by this bullshit. They call administration and they're told to defy an actual judge's signature and everything in the protection order they came to enforce. And when the cops left, Chris loaded up his car and hid a 6-year-old girl under blankets in the back seat. He was on the run for 21 days. And when Chris skipped town, the cop in charge of his case refused to locate the child with a phone ping because he didn't think the situation was sufficiently dangerous. What's most astonishing here is this. This sergeant, with well over a decade of experience, acted like AT&T makes judgment calls on missing children, and that's insane. Either you have a warrant or you don't. It doesn't matter what AT&T says. This is a lie, and if you're in the body, if you're still in the body, you need to get out. He refused to call AT&T and tell them to ping Chris's phone because he thought there was somebody at AT&T who was like the czar of pings, who was gonna say, oh, well, we need to show immediate danger. When he had a warrant, he refused to ping the phone. And so he was subpoenaed.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm positive. You want to, I mean, open up the case file.
I've often thought of making a reality TV show here.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it'd be a sweet location.
You've got no idea the amusing guys, entertaining guys that are here.
Okay, I would very much like to have this just be a peaceful, regular deal. Okay, I don't want to start breaking windows and pulling people out of cars and stuff. I don't want to do any of that stuff. All right. Okay, but the issue that you need to understand is that I will effect the arrest. Okay, I will do what I'm supposed to do. Okay, and we can stand here and argue about it all night. Okay. Okay, it doesn't. What happens in federal court is something that'll be sorted out at a later date. Right now, what I have is lawful court documents that command me to take this child in protective custody, and I have statements of officers stating that there's probable cause to place you under arrest. So you are under arrest. Okay. Okay. I don't have a verified claim. I have statements of probable cause. Okay, which is what I need. Okay, so I'm not gonna engage in a legal discourse with you. Okay, all of these arguments that you have, you can make in court. That's where your recourse is. Okay, I'm not an attorney. All right. Okay, so I'm advising you that you are under arrest. Okay, so you need to exit the vehicle. You don't have to consent to it. Okay, I'll take you. Here's the thing. Here's the deal, Christopher. I don't want to have to use force to do this. Okay, I don't want to have to do that.
You see the conflict here for me, and you know, all that is somebody opting out of work. Right? Is it a little bit more difficult for this? Sure. The way paperwork full says we can take it, but leaving the child here, what was the point of coming in then? That's like tasing somebody, and then like, you know what, I don't have an arrest. Sorry, bro. Next time. You know what I mean? And so I don't agree. Next time they're gonna barricade or move. But what do I know?
Coverage off.
The messed up part of the child rescue is that the administration almost left the kids with the cult. It was openly debated by police officers if they were. I mean, the cops were talking about this, about leaving the kid in the cult, and they were. I think they were disambiguous.
Judge told us to take custody of the child.
I mean, if the child's going to stay here.
There is. We've done what we're supposed to do.
All it is somebody opting out having to spend another hour or two of driving and drop it off somewhere. That's what it is.
Look, here's the situation. The CPS has to take custody of the child. Where they place it is up to them.
Right.
Honestly, I don't disagree with the fact that the child will stay here. I don't. The child is healthy, happy, and taken care of.
That family gonna bring it into court, though?
It's not my call. My call is where is the best place for that child, and CPS makes that decision. And if they decide that it's to stay here, and I don't feel like the child's in danger.
Yeah, see, I disagree. It'd be like taking the guns. Remember, it was one of those things that I don't feel, not my job, it's not my, I don't agree with it ethically. I'm not arguing with you.
No,
I'm just saying I disagree with the whole thing.
That's okay.
Because I I know why that's happening, because I'm more involved in that portion than the rest of the cops are. And so it just frustrates me, because I don't think that child should show up in court, and we're here doing this again, but now we're here and we have even more to go through. I think the child should stay here. I'm 100% fine with that until they do what they need to do to say that. But I think that she and their little ways are going to get in the way of that, because it's already their child, you know. Which I full-heartedly.
Right now, honestly, it's not about who gets away with what. It's about what's best for the kid. That's the important thing.
Why is a cop doing that? Why was he allowed to touch that case? Why? Like, he was subpoenaed right in the middle of it and kept investigating. He had Carrie Coombes' phone number, who he was supposed to be investigating, and never once called her. It's 22 fucking pages long. What is normal about that?
Well, it looked like he looks like he documented everything that he was being told.
Anyway, so this sergeant named Terry Schrabel conspired with and laundered evidence for Christopher David Coombes, most egregiously in S22-04930, which is a 22-page report where he talks about grass growing and how the cult story is not real. In this report, Terry is assigned to a call on his day off, and the respondent, of course, is Chris Coombes. This call is about a supposed false report made by Chris's ex-wife Carrie to Schrabel himself while he was writing Probable Cause, and Schrabel was already subpoenaed to testify about writing the probable cause in this case. So he never should have touched this file. Also, earlier this day, Chris Coombes went to the courthouse and filed a creative motion demanding the sheriff's office investigate a conspiracy kicked off by Carrie, which is, great timing. Anyway, a few days later, I showed up to the cult house with a camera, and the day after that, Terry started taking his investigation seriously. He watched the cultiest custody video ever, and Chris said he wasn't in a cult, which, okay. Schrabel interviews Chris for hours at OCSO headquarters, and somehow the tape of this gets lost. Bummer. Now Chris talks to Terry about my two primary sources from the cult, the survivors, and Terry writes everything down in detail. The conspiracy, he writes, is buck wild. And most importantly, none of it occurred in the state of Washington, so it was way outside Terry's jurisdiction. Next, he gets the former parents of the baby Chris gave away to testify about the fake conspiracy. Then this woman, Melissa Parker, flies in from Australia with her Australian cult member husband just to be interviewed by Terry and to badmouth her ex-husband who lives in Alaska, which is nowhere near Okanogan County.
Actually, if any of you have heard of a cult hunter...
That video interview goes missing too. Schrabel then makes a witness sound crazy, and he notes that she considers me a journalist. It's 22 pages long, there's no probable cause, and Chris used this document repeatedly in his court case, which got dismissed.
So there is information, right, as far as certain reports or whatever that are open to public disclosure.
Yeah, a child's physical is not one of them.
Okay, but I checked with Miss Barker and records, and I'm not aware of any forensic. It's like that. Yes, that information is not released.
No, but he had it.
How do you know he had it?
Because you wrote about it and Merchant wrote about it.
There's a lot of out of order and against procedure stuff that happened. Okay. I'm not exactly pleased you guys are not able to call me and communicate.
I just find it fascinating. When Chris says, why didn't you call me? He's telling the cops, like, why didn't you just call me?
You're saying that Schrabel released information from Detective Marchand's case.
Well, Schrabel was collaborating with Christopher Coombes. That's why.
Okay, but
if you look at report number S2204930, that is Schrabel's Mona Lisa. It's hard to imagine that things could have gone any worse.
Step away. Step away.
Chris had a life before this that he cannot return to.
Yay! Oh, and there's Boss. He is an inside dog now. He's a really good dog.
Before the allegations of child abuse, this guy had opportunities most people would cash in on.
Hey Dad, this is our little model. What we have here is corrugated galvanized siding at the bottom. These would be probably metal letters or something like that.
To be connected, for everything to be simple and easy.
Hey, Taff. So this family belongs to a really strong cult?
Yeah, I
okay. We're probably going to have to take that child out of her hands. So the first thing we need to do is try to get her hands. If we do, so just be ready for that.
Chris did everything he could to try to talk his way out of handcuffs.
I know, at least from last year, and all the stuff I went through, there was lots of allegations of I beat women, I beat my daughter, I withhold food from my daughter, I'm part of some nasty cult.
You could find these allegations in the affidavits. Other information came from the courts or directly from the sheriff's department.
I'm some extremist constitutionalist. I drive a overland vehicle and I had food and ammunition stashes all over this county, and I'm tacked up to the hill, ready to wage a private war. Hopefully your encounters with me have proven the exact opposite of that.
Chris is definitely a member of the body. He's on video at the compound in Alaska. The address in the case file is the compound in Washington. And from what's known of the forensics report that brought him in, any outlook that saw Chris avoiding prison was murky at best. But maybe his encounters with law enforcement would prove otherwise.
Just so you know, you're being audio and video recorded. Hey man, you want to step out of the vehicle for me? No, thank you. What's the paperwork say, Christopher? There's a lot of people that have conspired against me and testified wrongly. Okay. And so I have a federal claim to preserve my rights at a higher court. Okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with the details of previous, but
I know a little bit about what happened last time. A little bit.
Okay, I do. There's a lot of out of order and against procedure stuff that happened.
Okay.
When I saw the notes a detective made, the 11 felony charges, and the possibility of life in prison, my mind immediately returned to Alaska.
Okay, hi, Mom and Dad. There's Christopher in the bathroom there. You've seen most of this already.
Before they joined a cult, Chris had built a house for his wife Carrie just outside of Kenai. A preacher saw this and was impressed by the craftsmanship, and he was equally amazed by all the money Chris had saved doing everything himself. The preacher said something like, "I've got a project in mind, and it is written that someone like you would be sent to me." By the time I found out about the body, Chris and Carrie were already protected members, and Chris was in charge of building Zion.
The sex cult part came out because in the same week, I was at the courthouse and I noticed 3 couples filing for divorce at the same time.
Christopher Coombes was releasing these police reports in court. Listen to me, in court, he was releasing these documents and his case got dismissed. Like, luckily there was some sanity, and Chris was arrested again on a different probable cause affidavit. You interviewed Chris that day. This Chris turning himself in, the warrant was not public. The only people who knew about this were the police officers and the prosecutor's office. It was somebody at the sheriff's office. I mean, Chris admitted to this. The detectives noticed.
I don't fully know what all these current stuff is, other than the brief what you've told me, allegations of rape or incest or whatever.
You said somebody you had talked to a buddy. Who was it that told you we're looking for you?
I'm gonna decline to give that information, but
they had a fucking fugitive task force ready to take him down at a bank. They were waiting for him to leave a bank because they wanted to arrest him with a receipt in his jacket or his pants.
So somebody just called me and said, "Hey, apparently the sheriff's department's looking for you." And quite honestly, I went, "Really?" I've gone out of my way to give them my phone number, to leave forwarding addresses and everything. I mean, I'm not hiding. I don't want this crap again.
Well, and that's what I guess Chris trying to understand too, right? Of I guess at this point, how you found out we were looking for you is.
So I guess my question is like I'm trying to understand how this goes back to case number 0/1961.
It goes back to I guess like what I'm calling to report is that Terry Schrabel was collaborating with a person named Christopher David Coombes, who is a child. Well, he's facing charges right now. He's about to go on trial for raping children. And Terry Schrabel helped him from the probable cause affidavit, like through the entire process.
I'm talking because I was talking to Deputy Marchand outside about it, and I brought up, hey, like, from my understanding, when I first got told about this morning when I got here, is nobody there wasn't, other than what we talked about, right, is that that they had, gave the information to the prosecutor and decided at that point just go ahead and issue a warrant, which didn't mean that, you were hiding from us or whatever. But from my understanding of that, right, is that's as far as it went. The warrant hadn't even been released.
What I'm saying is that, like, Chris had help from the inside, definitely. I know this. The AG's office knows this. There's a reporter from Rolling Stone that knows this. Like, everybody's looking at Schrabel.
But from my understanding of that, right, is that's as far as it went. The warrant hadn't even been released to the general public.
And let's stop for a second. So Chris has turned himself in on this warrant, and this means that he knew what the questions were. He knew the questions. He knew what they were going to ask him about because he'd seen the report. He wasn't supposed to see why they were arresting him. This was all supposed to be a surprise. And the reason why he knew what was going to happen, and the reason why he was able to beat that interview, I guess, if that's the way you see it, is because he was tipped off by a cop.
Okay, last time Schrabel was thrown under the bus and legally threatened by out-of-state lawyers to do stuff, so I understand proper procedure, but
like, if this happened in New York City, the press would find out about it right away. They wouldn't be able to, they couldn't dodge it.
I'm irritated that when I leave contact information everywhere, and it's evident that I'm not trying to hide, never have been, that you guys won't call me. Maybe that's against your procedure or whatever, but
honestly, Chris,
I always have to hear about this stuff
from the back door. Mr. Coombes, you understand that this statement is being audio and video recorded? Okay, and you're making these statements freely, willingly, and voluntarily. No one's made any threats or any promises to talk to us today.
Well, I drove here voluntarily. I'm not sitting handcuffed voluntarily, but I'm willing to speak. Obviously, I came to talk to you.
So fair enough. So earlier this year, when I came into the
Do you mind me asking a question right off the top? What brought you to the sheriff's office today?
I heard through a friend that you guys were looking for me, and I'm like, what the heck?
Okay.
Literally come here specifically just to give you guys my cell phone number. I've talked to, hey, if there's ever anything, please call me, let me know. And now I hear it from the back end. There's something going on, so I'm here going, what's going on?
Okay, so they're serious charges.
That's what it's
okay. It's assault 2, child molestation, rape in the first degree, and incest first degree. And this came from a forensic interview that occurred last year.
I'm going to read something that I wrote. I'm being accused of someone putting me up to this, someone telling me what to say. I'm being accused of not being smart enough or having a brain enough to be able to create and run a social media profile by myself.
That's Melissa. She's in a cult called The Body.
Here's KSRM's Katie Quinn.
Until recently, most of Alaska's economic and Actually, if any of you have heard of a cult hunter telling a story about a cult in Nikiski that he alleges I was part of, he refers to me often as Melissa P. That man, he is all wrong. Apparently the man that I was married to for nearly 20 years, he talked to this cult hunter man.
And right now, I mean, I could show you scripture written by Mark Bissett, the cult leader, and that would be sufficient enough for you to judge whether or not this is cult. But what I prefer is to play for you the tapes from this church that were actually played in court a decade ago.
That's the first thing Jesus ever preached. Sex.
They were too carnal, so we had to do it, a seed into the land, scratch the land.
What do you know?
And what you need to do, Melissa, what you need to do right now is stand up and kick Peter in the dick as hard as you possibly can. Run out. Get out. Get out of the house. Just start running. The cult it has you convinced that there's nothing to return to, but that's what a cult would tell you. That's what this is what the research suggests. And if I was in your shoes, I would use violence, and then I would get out. I would just get to the airport, and I would finance your trip home. You gave me the name, the cult hunter. We don't have to talk after any of this. So, let's get you home, and that's it. We never cross paths again, and everyone would understand what happened to you because we all have Netflix. We've seen these cult documentaries. What you need to do is feel the fear. It's going to be scary. Feel the fear and do it anyways. And if you don't think that I have your best interest in mind, I'll just ask you, where is Chris? Why is your name in S22-04930? What happened to Chris? Are you gonna disappear? Where are you? It's weird that to travel from Australia to a place like Okanogan County, which is kind of a dump, just to talk to Terry. You don't know Terry. I would run right now as if something was chasing me, if I were you. It's a cult, and if you don't believe me, how much money do you have in your bank account? How much money do you have? Can you afford a ticket back to America? I don't think you could. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense. I got the file. It says he was under investigation. I don't know why maybe somebody clicked the wrong box.
Okay, I don't know that
Well, maybe Beth clicked the wrong box or something, but it says he was under investigation, and he's still a cop. He's on the Brady list.
No, well, that's...
And I'll say this right now, Terry, your name appears in this lawsuit that I think is relevant, this complaint that was made that was never investigated. And the official reason Terry is on the Brady list is, the official reason is that he had an illness. What he did is he wrote a report about finding a sect of Al-Qaeda, like the terrorists, 9/11, those folks. He found them in Okanogan County, except it was just a made-up lie, and he got the amount of resources spent on his lie should offend any taxpayer. And this is something that could only happen in Okanogan. It could only happen in Okanogan County that this guy could keep his job. Because this is typically like disqualifying stuff. You make up a story about Al-Qaeda, you're just not a cop anymore.
Honestly, Chris,
I always have to hear about this stuff
from back door.
Yeah. From back door, and then it makes me look like I'm hiding or a fugitive or trying to evade or whatever, when I don't even know that.
Yeah.
I still was not properly served for the first writ of habeas corpus. It doesn't matter, but that was all dismissed. But
yeah. No, and honestly,
but it destroyed my life, and both of my daughters were taken from me.
Irreconcilable differences from other officers. I have the report of his dismissal. Like, I'm a really, really talented reporter, and I have that fucking report.
Okay, well, he wasn't happy working here anymore, but that doesn't mean he was under investigation. He just was not happy with the administration anymore and decided to go to a different agency.
Well, the thing is that he was collaborating with Christopher Coombes, so maybe people had a problem with that, I guess. I guess Weigel probably would have had a problem with that.
That wasn't the issue. Nobody had an issue with Terry here. As I'm talking to you, I'm kind of reading through this report, and basically from what I'm reading is basically he documented everything that he was told so far by Chris.
Totally outside of his jurisdiction.
He talked to this cult hunter man.
If I am a cult hunter, then what are you doing in my story? Why are you here? If cult hunters exist, what are you doing in my story?
They actually met here at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, there's no records of it though. Like, no records exist of any of these meetings. They meet multiple times. None of the records that Schrabel talks about, there's nothing real tangible but some paper copies of statements that these people the Heseltines made. I don't know why Schrabel was interviewing them. I don't know why. I mean, the people Schrabel talks to when he had Carrie's phone number the entire time, it's insane. It's literally, it's comical.
She claimed to want to reconnect. She was seen all over town with me. She came to work with me. She went to City Hall meetings with me. She, for a couple months, was all around Tonasket, and we rafted rivers, and we had no issues, no fear. Mm-hmm. And then she went back to Pennsylvania, said she wanted to move here. So I rented her an apartment on 5th Street, paid for it. And she came back here, and then all of a sudden, all of this stuff happens. And apparently, she told me outright, and I have the witness testimonies, it's all on record. She went to legal counsel, was told to go to a battered women's shelter, create a storyline of domestic abuse and violence and all the rest. She could get the kids and then leave the state. And so that was her leverage to sit down with me and say, listen, I demand 50% of the custody of the kids because I had full legal and physical custody. We weren't married, hadn't been for 4 years or whatever.
So when you said that, as far as her talking to the legal counsel or whatever, and that she had, how did you find out? So you said she told you that?
She literally sat me down with the Heseltines.
At first, Carrie played along with the cult. She did what they told her to do. She thought they were going to let her see her kids again. Like, that they were eventually just going to... This fake made-up deal was going to happen.
Hello, my name is Carrie Coombes. It is September 21st, 2018, and I wanted to make a video to confirm that the decision that I made with my husband earlier this year, I believe it was March through April of 2018.
Sheriff's Office.
So so I'll start by asking this. What prompted Carrie's separation from you and the kids?
She didn't want to be around. You say mother, but no woman who's a mother would voluntarily leave her family and her daughters 2 weeks after her second daughter's born and fly back to her parents. And then no communication for 3.5 years.
Okay. And when did she leave?
She left in 2018 from Alaska.
This year, I believe it was March through April of 2018, to dissolve our marriage as well as give him sole custody, both physical and I forget what the name of the other part of it is, but that he has the sole right to make decisions for them. I still agree with that. I was not forced at any point into making that decision, and I still stand by that. I also stand by that for the other daughter that I gave birth to should also remain within his custody, and that he has the sole right of decision, and that is in the girl's best interests at this time.
Stuff is not...
I'll read through 4930.
Yeah.
But what I'm addressing at this point right now with you is the 1961.
And I'm addressing you, what I'm addressing with you is that, like, Schrabel is a dirty cop who is working with a cult that is accused of sex abuse.
Department anymore.
I know, but he still lives in Okanogan County. He's still a police officer.
This is the sheriff's office. You're telling me you have no legal paperwork that has anything to do with...
And the cops knew about the cult, and they had a forensics report, which they sat on, that suggested Chris would eventually be facing the kind of charges that the Class A felonies that he was charged with. And they sat on it. They never submitted it to the prosecutor.
I'm going to read the 1961 that has to deal with your email that you sent.
But you're not going to read 04930? You're not going to read 04... Are you telling me you're not going to read 04930? Tell me. Say it to me. Tell me you're not going to read 04930. Are you going to read it or are you not?
I'm not going to have you continue to talk over.
And it's totally unnecessary and ridiculous. This is longer than any murder investigation by a single officer. And because this stuff is subject to disclosure, Terry will learn that I'm a real journalist and that he should have taken me a little more seriously. He will learn that I am ruthless and unforgiving. All right, I've been trying to take down this cult for a long time that nobody knows about, called The Body, who have evaded law enforcement for nearly 20 years, and huge news tonight.
But tomorrow you might be able to pull up some arrest records in Okanogan County.
I guess there's nothing on there at the moment.
Chris is sitting in jail.
Chris is in jail?
Chris and Stuart were arrested. You're the one that did the video? You made the video?
Yeah, I made the video, and I made a website about these guys.
No, they say that you're the stalker. Just let you know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. This is something that was actually on the website. It said that like twice that CPS had been had been to that address in the last week, like before this happened.
We got the two kids. We got the two kids out of it.
That's amazing news.
And he's sitting in jail. Your timing of that video was absolutely unbelievable.
The thing is, I came forward and only told what is true according to my life's experience. I did that by way of three videos that probably you all have seen. I was telling my story. I hoped to debunk the cult story that has been spread by way of my ex-husband, largely, and his friend who is a self-professed cult hunter.
I won't have to testify against those. The only one I have to testify.
I know it's that you don't have to testify. Who cares what you have to testify? I'm telling, like, this is a matter of a police office. This is like as fucking dark and corrupt as a story as I've ever heard in my life.
So far,
there's nothing worried about that, man. I mean, you're a single dad at that point, like trying to.
Those kids are my life. I changed everything I did to be able to facilitate their care and well-being.
Nothing worried about that, man.
This is the issue I have, Mr. Warner. So far, we've spent 40 minutes and 30 seconds on the phone at this point, and so far, other than
the police reports,
the police report where at the time Sergeant Schrabel and Chris Coombes met here at the sheriff's office.
It's 22 pages. A woman flew from fucking Australia.
There was a lot to report.
A woman flew from New South Wales, Australia to interview Schrabel, or to be interviewed by Schrabel. Are you kidding me?
Is that illegal?
You know that he collaborated. You know, you're fucking in on the like this is outrageous.
All right.
You know it. You know that Schrabel did this. You know that Schrabel did this, and that's just going to be the record, is that you know.
Okay. I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Well, then read the fucking reports. I gave you the list of a number of reports. You want me to send you an email?
Okay.
What do the cops ask you for? This is very simple. Every time you get pulled over a traffic stop.
Just so you know, you're being audio and video recorded. Hey man, you want to step out of the vehicle for me? No, thank you.
This guy did not have a driver's license. For one, there was a gun case by the passenger seat, and you know this guy was ordered to surrender his weapons. If they would have searched that vehicle, there's another felony. And we might not be talking right now if that vehicle had been subject to search. There was a fucking child hidden under blankets in the backseat. I can't believe they didn't search that car. It's not even close. That's the tip of the iceberg.
And here's the thing. This is what I'm going to tell you. I see guys that write 3 pages on a barking dog complaint. Because they really like to write.
He literally wrote 22 pages. What happens in that report?
I think somebody should write 8 paragraphs on a barking dog complaint. Absolutely.
Okay, there's a difference between playing devil's advocate and advocating for the devil.
Okay.
Which is what you're doing.
Okay, but here...
All right, Deputy Ray, see ya. Fuck you.
Is what...
She would get a few swats. I will openly admit that, and it's not against the law or legalities in this state or any state I've ever been in. She was never beaten. She was never punished out of anger. There was never a desire to control and manipulate her, as has been colored and portrayed. In fact, at least the report, which if it's the one you're referencing, she came back to that physician with further bruising and issues on her after she was in Carrie's care.
He's the victim of a conspiracy, is what he was saying. And I mean, I'm part of this conspiracy, I guess, in his world.
From what I can see, and again, this is my opinion, but there was an elaborate legal trap that was sprung last year by my ex-wife thinking to know me that I would respond with force.
He presented himself as if he was just like an ordinary guy and going through a breakup or something, messy stuff, kids, custody. But I talked to a woman that he was married to, and I read all the affidavits. Nothing that happened in Chris's cases was typical. He was not some normal guy. I knew Chris was submitting insane documents in court. He was demanding a silver dollar a second. He was saying that his property was being trespassed. And when he talked about the property, he was talking about children.
I'm some extremist constitutionalist. I drive a overland vehicle, and I had food and ammunition stashes all over this county, and I'm tacked up to the hilt, ready to wage a private war. Hopefully your encounters with me have proven the exact opposite of that.
Chris just has to say, like, what's going on in a sarcastic voice, and that is supposed to invalidate what he's saying. I'm not in a... They're saying I'm in a cult. Can you believe that? Here's a video of me on the compound.
There were artists.
Chris is making moose antlers.
This is the furthest my side of the story's been heard at any point.
Okay, and that's why we didn't go rushing off to jail, because this is sensitive. This
2 little girls' lives
and
destroyed.
It's important, and it's better. It's better that if we try to do this now, than have it.
I agree.
Than have it turn any other direction. I would rather be thorough about it than.
I appreciate that.
But they just, they didn't... The state makes this case, 11 felonies against Chris, and they didn't include all the evidence that they gathered. They didn't include their own evidence. Like if you were to make a case that Chris shouldn't have these kids to a jury, you kind of want to see the video of him getting arrested. They didn't include anything from the child rescue. It was as if it didn't happen. It was as if Chris didn't give a child away. The jury has to know about this. They wouldn't have been able to say anything about it in court because it wasn't in discovery. And that's not a mistake. They didn't want the judge to see that Chris had been tipped off, is what it comes down to.
So my concern is with it, right, is that for future, right, I don't want, if we do have any contact, right, is I don't want, if there's an issue with whether it be a deputy, whether it be somebody at the courthouse, whether it be whatever, that is taking it upon themselves to say, hey, the sheriff's office believes this about you, or the sheriff's office believes this about you. Before we have the opportunity to have that conversation with you, so you're not, feeling like right off the bat like we're coming after you, right, or that that you've done something wrong. That kind of screws with us, because it may have been just, what they believe is, hey, yeah, oh yeah, gosh, they believe Chris is in the cult, is doing something now, and now they're looking for you, right? So if there's an issue on our end, right, of miscommunication, or a deputy that doesn't know what he's talking about and doesn't even be talking about what he doesn't know, or somebody at the courthouse who also, it's none of their business, that we can address that issue, right?
Did you see the interview where I brought several people down to the conference room and Shrable recorded hours of...
That I didn't watch, but I read the report.
It's like what happened was washing. Just like what happened in Alaska, but I mean, the victim's age, obviously. And I told the cops about this in 2020.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with if you had to help wash her when she's that age, right? Because she is young.
Absolutely, I did.
So I guess that's kind of what Tony's or Detective Marchand's leaning towards, right? Is so we have an understanding of what went on, right?
At this point, all you have to do, you open up the previous case file, you see what's going on here, and that can give you an idea of what was happening at home. But what happens in this case is that nothing happened. They were never serious about prosecuting Chris. It wasn't about justice. They didn't include anything that everything you know about this right now. They didn't include any of that stuff. The video of Chris's interrogation that I'm showing you, this is mine. And thank God I filed the FOIA on time, because this tape was lost. I'm showing you the only copy that is left of this tape. They didn't use it in the prosecution. It wasn't in the case file. I mean, they charged Chris with several Class A felonies, and they took this video out of the evidence. Why would they do that? It sickens me. Like, how could you possibly ever make a mistake like this when the stakes are what they are? It's a shame they didn't review the interrogation tape, because after they talked about washing, which Chris said never happened, the detectives walked out of the room. And when I turned up the volume to hear what Chris was muttering, he did not sound like an innocent man.
Yeah. Oh.
That's some ibuprofen.
Never had blood.
There's a small degree of things that I would want to say that you'd be interested in, but it doesn't really, lead anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just speculation, and I'm not gonna add to what's already out there because you've got your finger on some of it. Working on the road as long as I did before I was at the sheriff's office, I had always heard things. So there's a ton out there, and I confronted some shitbags about stuff before and told them, if you got all this shit or get off the pot. Don't fucking bother me with it anymore. And those people never did come forward. So that, to me, tells me that it was bullshit.